What's up, man? So, how you finding lockdown?
Not much. Yeah, life on lockdown, doing the usual lockdown things. We're here in Monterey at the moment. We're in the mecca of light contact kickboxing. We did a bit of training. I can come back and forth to Hall at the moment, so we're blessed to be able to come back and forth. It's just me and my brother. So I'm still training away, doing a bit of reading, watching some Netflix, doing all the lockdown things. Have you seen that documentary on Netflix? Actually, the Tiger King one. Have you watched that?
I've seen a few people talking about it, and Brendan
Oh
Shaw
my
shared a
God!
few bits there.
We're recording now, are we?
Yeah,
Oh, look, let's kick it off with Netflix recommendations with GMK. Everybody should watch that Tiger King documentary. It is insane. It's about people who own big cats, but like own multiple big cats. It's absolutely crazy, and they're like running around, like cuddling up to these big cats and rubbing them. Like they treat these lions like I treat my Bichon Frise. Like it's
yeah.
it's crazy stuff. But it's
And
definitely worth the watch. Watch it. The first episode's okay. The second episode, it takes a left turn and gets crazy real quick.
is that when he starts singing? I've seen a video of him singing.
Oh yeah, he's them country music videos.
I've seen it.
I watched that. Yeah, I think if I was to go into music, that's exactly what it would look like. Like that's how GMK would produce music videos. 110%.
Yeah, from the mecca of Monterey.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it'd have to be country music as well. Look, if kickboxing doesn't work out, that's where I'll turn to.
And is it Texas he lives? Does he live in Texas?
Yeah, I think it's in Florida, but they moved it to the Texas border at some stage. But there's some crazy statistic that says like there's more cats in Texas privately owned than there is in the wild.
Yeah, that's what I would think. That's exactly why I was asking. You would have been listening to Joe Rogan as well.
Yeah. Yes, I think I heard it off Joe Rogan. And whatever Joe Rogan says is gospel. Yeah, Joe Rogan does not lie.
So that's why I was asking. If Texas is living in. Because,
it's a crazy documentary. Like to think about the kind of minds that would want to own multiple big cats is insane. But Netflix had another really good one like that recently, Abducted in Plain Sight. With these stories that are so insane that like you can't believe it. Like it's almost like they've written them for TV dramas, and it turns out to be a documentary.
But would you be surprised if they just wrote it for a TV drama? Like,
oh no, this is like you saw this as a TV drama. Say it again.
I watched Abducted in Plain Sight, like, and I was just when you thought like this is weird. Next thing is that it just kept getting more weird. You're just like, what is going on?
It got weirder and weirder, and it shouldn't have been funny. But this is like
it was.
I'm on a podcast. You're getting insight into my sixth sense of humor. It was hilarious. I remember me and a friend of mine I boxed with absolutely bent over laughing at the idea that this guy was having an affair with not only the mother but the father at the same time. And that scene where this camera zooms in.
I relieved him.
It's like, oh yes, I did the worst thing imaginable. I reached over there and I relieved him. It was gold. Like, it was so out there. It could have been a TV drama, that kind of way.
Like that. They should have made that into a series. That whole thing. The 1 hour wasn't enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that with the Tiger King. Say again.
Should have got in actors and everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I feel sometimes I don't like these big drawn-out documentaries. I felt like the Tiger King you could have done in one documentary, but at the same time you get all these extra little tidbits that, like, I don't want to spoil it for people, but that one in the second episode where they turn around and explain how they're all polygamists. Oh, it was so crazy. It was so good. You have just people go home. You stop, pause the Black Belt right now. Go watch that documentary and then come back to us.
I'm going to put it on the list. I'll put it on the list to have a listen. To have a watch.
Definitely do it. It's out there.
But we'll go to a bit of maybe martial arts talk. So, and
that's what it is. A martial arts podcast.
Well, we talk about whatever. So, what's it? As you know, if you've been listening, I always tend to start with the same place, and that's how you started in martial arts.
Yeah, well, I suppose I the same. They come from the same upbringing as everyone else in martial arts, in the sense of I've listened to this before, and everyone is down to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, which is the classics. But I suppose an even bigger influence for me at the time growing up some of my earliest memories when I was like 7 or 8. I remember I used to be allowed to stay up late on a Friday and a Saturday night with my dad. I thought this was great. But he used to pull out this box of VHS tapes, and they were all the old classic boxing fights. So you had the likes of Muhammad Ali, Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard. And I used to remember watching these. But two that kind of stood out for me, and I have such a vivid memory of them, is he had 2 tapes of Prince Nassim Hamed. And I just fell in love with that style. He had 1 tape where it was just his fights. I think the Kevin Kelly fight was on it. I remember watching that a few times. And he had the other one where it was that documentary about when he fought Barrera in Vegas, that fight he lost. I just really love this. I love this style. The way Prince was able to make a fool of someone and then just knock them out. It was so good. It was so different to all the other boxers that had ever come before him. And he was so cocky and so brash. I love that. And I think that's, once I saw that, I was like, I want to do what the Prince does. I want to, whatever that is. I was begging my parents to get involved in martial arts. But at the time, actually, my father knew a man who taught karate. And he said, leave him till he's about 11 or 12. And I was 7 or 8 going, no, I got to start now. But they did. They brought me in when I was 11. And I did my first class in Oranmore at the time as part of the Connacht Taekwondo School. So under Shane Fitzgibbon and Lisa Conley. So that's where I got my start. And I remember doing my first class, it was a Thursday evening. And I was like, yeah, this is for me. Like, I absolutely love this. And just never looked back since. So Taekwondo was my first martial art, really. And then through different journeys, transition, I did boxing and kickboxing, which we'll probably get into now as we're having a chat.
But definitely, I think it was maybe a kind of that generation, because my dad used to always talk about Naz, like, and how good Naz was, like, and he was like telling me, like, oh, you should watch Naz and Wayne McCullough and all. So like I went back and watching.
Yeah,
a savage fighter. So I think sometimes people how good he was, because when the way he lost to Barrera, I think kind of his career was small.
I know he had one more fight after that. Yeah, and he went out on a low almost.
Yeah,
which was unfortunate for fans of Naz. Like, you would have liked to see him do more, and he was so young as well when he retired. But like, once you lose the fight, I suppose. But yeah, I love that style of boxing at the moment, and it's becoming more popular. The matrix styles people are kind of coined it. The likes of Lomachenko, and I'm all over Pernell Whitaker at the moment. As soon as we're off, I've been watching loads of Pernell Whitaker. But it's the way, for people that seen Pernell Whitaker, he gets, like, counter fighters get people annoyed. That's the aim of the game, is like to sit back, make them miss, and kind of smile and taunt them a little bit and get them to commit more, so you can make them miss some more and counter them. But Pernell Whitaker, he has it down to a fine art. Like, you can see, especially that De La Hoya fight, he has De La Hoya really pissed off. Like, De La Hoya wants to kill him, and he just can't put his hands on Pernell Whitaker. And it's something, I just love that style. The ability to be able to sit back and just make people miss. I love that. Like,
it was funny because when I was talking to Ryan, obviously there a few not too long ago on the last podcast, and he said he picked his favorite fighter was Floyd Mayweather, and like, obviously a similar style. So
yeah, Floyd is a real purist style, though. I find, like, you have to understand boxing to get Floyd. Unless they're broken down into these small tidbits and they're slow mode, then people appreciate how good he is. But like, that's for real boxing purists, I think, Floyd Mayweather. And that guy, Rigondeaux, he was the same. Like, wouldn't do too much, but he touched. Rigondeaux was really, really good as well. Or if anyone's seen Tevin Farmer, he's quite good. He's
Tevin
defensive
Farmer
for the sake of being defensive. Like, he just makes people
lost his last
have
fight.
a good time. Like, he's not even trying to counter attack people. He's just making them miss and laughing at them. Like,
yeah, but Tevin Farmer actually lost his last fight.
Yeah, I remember the last full fight I watched of him was when he fought. Yes, there was one before that where he got a really bad decision against a Japanese fella. I think he was Japanese. There was one where he was going for that original world title. I remember looking at how they scored this. But that is the issue, I suppose, with counter fighting. It's controversial in the sense of some people just want to see somebody dominate the middle of the ring and throw more shots. Judges are trigger happy. You see it in eye contact as well. Like, judges are trigger happy. Once they see that forward movement, they want to score something. Whereas the counter fighting is about making them miss by inches sometimes and then countering. And it's hard to pick up on. And it's a style that's not for everybody. Even fans of combat sports, not everybody appreciates the finer details of it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying people that appreciate that forward style aren't appreciating the finer details. There's guys like if you watch, just because we're on boxing, Gennady Golovkin. Like, that's a forward style, but he's technical at it. Like the way he breaks people down with the jab and then unleashes what punches he has to use to finish them off. He's so good, and he's very rarely hit as well. Like he's really good. Them two Canelo Alvarez fights though. Alvarez is another good example of a defensive boxer. I think well being offensive, like he's serious power, but his head movement is completely underrated. Like
the last fight he was walking forwards, but it was like hands up, slipping, like stick his head out, just that little slip back, and bang with the right hand coming back.
So slick. Like there is little videos of him on Instagram. I've seen people sharing around of his head movement, but it is so good, and it's the way he's able to link it between. He's like you said, stepping forward, walking someone down, making a miss, and then cracks them on the inside. The way he knocked out Kovalev is so good.
Yeah,
that Daniel Jacobs knockout as well was like, you see the way he caught him that hook and rolled underneath his next shot. It's so slick.
But even like Mike Tyson was a little bit like that as well. Like he with the hands up, coming forward and slipping inside.
Yeah,
like it was counter. But like all these punches were counter punches, but because he was going forward, it didn't look like it. Looked like he was the offensive.
Yeah, people remember Mike Tyson for stepping in and just mowing down people. But he technically was so good. How often did you see Mike Tyson get hit, especially in that early period? Like he was so good at that kind of bob and weave style. He invented and pioneered that bob and weave style and made it his own. Like he was very rarely hit, and like you said, it was counter punching. By the time he got into that range and knocking people out, it was a counter punch that knocked him out.
And for going back to yourself, did you compete much then when you were younger, like maybe as a color belt in taekwondo? Were you competing much? And
yeah, this will shock people now. As a color belt, I hated sparring at the time. So I remember I started competing around 12 years of age. I was pretty early on. I remember being a yellow belt competing my first time at like the Connacht Taekwondo Championships in Gord or something like that, the IUTF Connacht Taekwondo Championships. And I hated sparring. I didn't like getting hit. The idea of fighting people it wasn't for me. And I used to love patterns. So I did patterns all the time, which just saying it now sounds absolutely insane. Like, could you imagine me doing patterns now, Jimmy? But who knows? Maybe I might make a comeback yet. But it's I started competing. I was around 11. I kind of I was always competing though. So from 12, I was just always competing in the smaller tournaments in Ireland. The IUTF used to run loads of them. We had like Connacht Championships and Munster Championships and Leinsters and all the rest of it. And was competing. And I think I got to like 17. I started to travel internationally when I was 16 and got a taste. I did some tournament out the TAGB tournament, some of that out in Poland. And I remember the style and the standard being very, very different. So once I got to 16, 17, I started to question what was the story with this style. Do you know what I mean? We'd heard of WAKOs, and WAKO seemed to be the pinnacle of mat sports. But I was always like, why are we not competing in WAKOs? You know, and there's so many different associations. There's so much in politics that's involved and all that carry on. So once I got to 16, 17, started questioning it. And then at 18, I moved then at the time I was in Connacht Taekwondo, and I went, because I knew John Mackey, who's been on this podcast as well.
Yeah, John's been on the podcast.
So I moved over to his club, which is in Dublin, and just to get for the opportunity to go to WAKOs and to kind of test myself a little bit and see. I wanted more from the sport than just competing at these small tournaments and this kind of under the radar stuff. I wanted a little bit more out of it. So I wanted to do WAKO. So went to John, and that at the time, John was the only person I knew that was involved in both taekwondo and kickboxing. So I used to travel up to him. I was still living in Galway at the time, still am. So I used to travel. I used to get a bus up on a Friday to go training and then spend the weekend up there. Sometimes I had an aunt that stayed in Cabra. Spend the weekend up there and then come back home. And I used to go back and forth for about 5 years. I was up there competing. And that's where I really started to get the bite for light contact and really kind of fell in love with the sport from there. John was really good coaching and stuff like that.
Yeah, John's had a lot of solid competitors. It was really interesting chat when we was on the podcast as well. I actually thought when I first
he had a huge influence on my style. That was one, and I was always stuck in and out of boxing clubs as well.
Yeah, like I think when I first met you, you were when I first kind of would have heard of you, you were training with John's club. So I actually thought then you were from Dublin, because I knew you were training out of John's club. It was only after then.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
He's actually.
Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people would have said that to me. They didn't realize I was traveling once or twice a week. I used to get a lift up. My dad used to support me that way. He used to actually drive me up to training sometimes on a Friday night and collect me. and come home. And we used to go from Galway to Dublin and then back home straight away afterwards. So it was 2 hours in a car up and 2 hours all the way back for an hour and a half training. But at the time, that was the perfect training I need. I wasn't familiar with how light contact worked. I didn't have any front leg and stuff like that. So John did develop a lot of skills that I could use going forward and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of people didn't realize I was making that trick all the time.
Did he influence the jab?
Did the jab?
The GMK
jab. I came out the womb jabbing. I was GMK's classic jab. I came out the womb, jabbed my way out, up onto that attention stance. All the nurses bowed there. I still sit back. They knew something special. But to be fair, I spent an awful lot of time in boxing clubs, in motivated boxing clubs. So I was always in and out of the boxing clubs. Even when I was with the IUTF, I think it was like 13 or 14 the first time I'd experienced boxing. And I was always in and out of the club. And there was a coach in there called PJ Fallon. I really clicked with PJ, purely because he appreciated the finer aspects of boxing. You know, sometimes you come to these country clubs and they just want you to run around the hall for 45 minutes, just whack the bag out of it. You know what I mean? Whereas PJ would take you on the pads, even at 14, I remember, and he'd be looking at really perfecting the jab, some stuff like that. And he'd really break down the techniques and things. And I used to love working with PJ. And even when I came back boxing later on, I did an awful lot of work with him. And I think he brought my game forward hugely, both defensively and offensively in the boxing. Because I think that's what I'm known for now in light contact, is having a solid boxing base. But I spent an awful lot of time in boxing clubs, drilling it and perfecting it, trying to adapt it, I suppose, for the mats.
And you went, like you said, you went boxing kind of nearly for a full time there as well, for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, so I did. Sorry, say again?
You went boxing kind of full time. You went away from kickboxing for a little bit, and even taekwon, and went purely boxing for a while. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. So what happened was, at the time I was about 20. So I'd won the Irish Open, won the Hungarian World Cup, and won the Dutch Open. So we did our time in the World Series. I think it was about 20 at the time. And I'd won all these tournaments, and then I qualified for the Europeans. So you win the national kickboxing championships here in Ireland, and then you go forward for the Europeans. I can't remember, was it Europeans or Worlds at the time. I think it was Worlds in Hungary. I think it was about 2017. So I turned around and I'd spent all my money. I was like I'd spent all my money on going to the Dutch Open and the Hungarian World Cup and all the other tournaments we were doing. And by the time Europeans was coming around and they started to want these deposits, I was going, no, I've no more money left. I can't go. So I turned around and kind of said, look, I'm going to have to leave this. So instead of kind of, I got a bit frustrated with the sport as well. Like, obviously you've put all this time and effort in, and there's no kind of give back. You know, they haven't given anything back. They're not trying to support you. Whereas like when I was approached them, I was like, listen, I can't do this. They were like the higher ups of KBR were like, look, what can we do? Like, it's part of the sport. And I think at the time I got extremely frustrated. So I walked away from it and said, listen, good luck, lads. I'm out. So I ended up spending time boxing. So as it happened, it worked out in my favor. So I immersed myself in boxing and got to compete at the under-22 championships and this national seniors and stuff like that, and got really, really good experience and met people I still work with today. The likes of Tom O'Toole, who won the elites there at the top of 2018. Like, I'm still really good friends with him, and we train together regularly. Like, but I spent a lot of time boxing, immersed myself in boxing. Do you know what I mean? I was set to not come back kickboxing and just compete at boxing at the time. I just got very, very frustrated with this kind of attitude of kickboxing as a stepping stone. Do you know what I mean? It was very amateur mindset to me that we couldn't get any benefits. You could win a WAKOs in this country, and then there was no payoff. Whereas if you win a WAKOs in Turkey, I've heard you can get 10 grand. Jamie, imagine the damage I would do with 10 grand out here. I'd be set for life. In motivation, be set for life with 10 grand.
The Mecca.
Oh my God, we'd actually set up the Mecca.
You wouldn't have to buy a pint ever again.
This is it. Like, what would you be spending the money on? You'd be a local hero. But I think the thing with me then was, as I was boxing, I remember seeing the team that went out that World Championships in Hungary and looking at the way. What for me at the time was, it was very much like anybody could go. As long as you paid the money, you could go. And I remember looking at this going, no, this isn't good enough for me. This, I for a sport I loved, which was light contact, and I genuinely do care about the sport and I'm passionate about the sport. For as much as I kind of poke fun at martial arts and things like that, I really do have a love for light contact. But I remember at the time just not being happy with the way anybody could go. I was like, why are they letting this guy do this weight division, even though he's qualified in such and such a weight division? So I remember going, well, I got to go back. I got to go back and kind of set the standard, if nothing else, for my division and in this country. So that's kind of what prompted me back into kickboxing. And at the time, I tried to go back to John. And when I kind of got in contact with him, we were just in two different places. So in the sense of he'd taken a job with Canoe in Ireland at the time, and he was working a little bit more on that. He wasn't coaching kickboxing the same way. And I wasn't willing to make that a 2-hour journey every single time. So what ended up happening was I got in contact with Damien Gormley, only because his club was in Castlebar and it's a completely points club. And Damo at the time wasn't sure about it. He kind of looked at me and goes, well, no problem, but you do realize it's only point fighting we do here. And I was like, I didn't care. I was like, I just want to go back kickboxing. I don't care what you're teaching me. I'll just go back kickboxing. I'll train myself. And I ended up just going up and down to demos for a couple of weeks and competed in the White Tiger Challenge. And that just gave me the bite for it again. I was like, I want to be back kickboxing. And that's where I am now. I'm training and competing on the White Tiger. And I have to say, it's the happiest I've been in kickboxing. I've been blessed in the sense of Damo skill set is kind of, I would say, more off the mat. He's very, very good at handling me and handling stuff like sponsorship. Like I've been blessed the last 2 years to get some really, really good sponsorships, but you have to go out and put the work in, as opposed to, I changed my attitude from that kind of 20-year-old who was going, oh no, I can't be dealing with this. If KBR ain't going to help me, what am I going to do? Whereas you just have to go out and chase it yourself. You have to go and put yourself in that good position to go and compete for the rest of the year. So I've been blessed, but Dame was very, very good at supporting that stuff and helping me out when it comes to sponsorship.
Yeah, I suppose that's good. Like, because you could have, like you said, you got a bit disillusioned, and you could have just left and went, oh well, like that's the way things have been done, and there's no support. But like you've kind of since went back and kind of maybe shown the way to some degree to go, well, like that, you can get some sponsorship, you can get some support if you're willing to put in the work and go out and find it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was an attitude change at the time that really, obviously an attitude change because I love the sport and I want to be back involved in the sport. But as well as that, I kind of came back in knowing that no matter what I do, like the sport in this country is not where it is in Russia or Turkey or Italy, where they're getting funded and they're getting a little bit of help. So I had to go, well, how do I create the blueprint for the next group of juniors that are coming up? And they go, well, how do I stay involved in the sport as far as funding goes? So once you hit 18 and 19, you start funding yourself. It's much harder. It's easy when you're competing at juniors and mom and dad are handing you the money every other week. It's so much easier. But suddenly when you're competing at senior and you need to make the money yourself, it is a lot harder. So I just want to create that blueprint and show people it can be done in this country. You can go and compete full time, get funded, get some help to do it, because it's tough. But if you have the right attitude and you put yourself out there, I think, in the sense of you have the right group of people around you. There's some people in Monterey that are hugely helpful to me as far as getting funding. They got some huge funding from me last year, which allows me to go and compete at these World Cups and compete at the European Championships and World Championships as they go. Because especially with kickboxing, I know in Taekwondo the schedule is a little bit different. You don't have as many of the World Cups. Well, I can say I don't have as many as the World Cups in Taekwondo. I compete in Taekwondo too. But what you don't have, the way we have the setup of Irish Open, Austrian Classics, Hungarian World Cup, there's loads of tournaments to be going to. And you have to be involved in them in kickboxing in order to medal or do well at the World Championships, because you need to know who you're in there with, what competitors are in the region, and get that international experience. So by the time you hit the mats at WAKO's, it's not a big daunting challenge to be doing 3 rounds against some fella from Bulgaria or wherever they're from.
And where were the WAKO's meant to be on this year?
They're still set to be on. They're set to be on in Turkey. So far, I've got my fingers crossed, like, because everything is cancelled, like, which is, it's a hard blow, like, especially the way we train in Monterey. Like, everyone's on lockdown now. We've been in lockdown all Christmas. So there's 3 or 4 of us came into the hall after I had a really good year last year. I won Irish Open and silver at Hungarian World Cup, won Flanders and Bristol, and got bronze at WAKO's. So I felt like I was starting to hit that stride, and I was like, right, hitting 24 now. We've put ourselves away for Christmas, and there was 3 or 4 of us just working, all in preparation for this season.
Yeah.
As in the kickboxing season of Irish Open. So we got Irish Open in, and then now with Corona, everything's cancelled. So like we were set to go to Austria. We were looking at Hungary as well, and like it's a real blow. But like I was thinking, it got me one Wednesday evening we were down here, and I realized I was hitting pads, and I was about 4 rounds in, and I just realized, man, there's no tournaments. We're training for what's
What
going
are you
on?
bothering for?
But like,
Yeah.
the likes of the Olympians who have been training for the Olympic Games, certainly for that to be postponed, it must be heartbreaking. It is hard. Anybody that's involved in any kind of sport right now, it is tough. But hopefully, I've got my fingers crossed. There's talk of them running some tournaments in September, so hopefully we might get to Flanders Open and the Bristol Open, and hopefully yours. I've got my fingers crossed. Don't doubt me, Jamie. I need something. To be doing.
Yeah, but like it's grand saying, oh yeah, well, like even I will push these tournaments back to June, but when are you going to have time to train? It's like gyms are closed, you know.
This is it. Yeah, it depends. As I said, we're in a very unique position over here. Like the community hall in Monivea, I have the use of that for whenever I need it. Do you know what I mean? So Monivea kind of support me in that sense. So we've been here every day training, and I think that should be people's goals, is to try and get better over this period. But as you said, like all the gyms are closed, all the classes are off. There's not much place to train. It's making it hard for people, definitely.
Yeah, but I even think that like with the Olympics, like, people are saying, "Oh, should just like push it back to next year." But when you put 3.5 years of preparation into something to peak on maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, even maybe depending on what events, like it's very hard to just go, "Oh yeah, we'll just extend that now by a year," and like that as well. It's
it must be heartbreaking.
Another year of funding potentially that you need that maybe isn't there, and like there's so much other stuff to it, like not just the case of like, because these athletes don't just rock up that week and perform. It's like there's a cycle of years.
This is it, because I remember there was an interview on the news last night with one of the Irish hockey players, and that was the term she used, to peak at the tournament, because she was talking about, oh, it's heartbreaking for us and all the rest of it. And I was going, who cares? Like, just put in another year of work and be better by the time you come 2021. But it was when she said that, like, they've planned their training to peak at this 2020 Olympic Games. Yeah, it must be very, very difficult. It must be a hard pill to swallow, because you put all that, as you said, put all that work in, all the fun and everything that goes along with sport, that mental grind of staying focused. And all of a sudden now you've got to do it for another year. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think once Team Canada pulled out, that was the end of the Olympics. Like, once teams started pulling out, you have to postpone it then.
And once, I think as well, once the USA had kind of said that they were looking at pulling out and it should be postponed, I think that was always going to do it as well, because like if they aren't sending athletes, that takes out a big chunk of the competition. So straight away it was going to be on the back foot.
The only thing I would hate to see postponed is Tony Khabib. That's all. I'm sitting here, fingers crossed. I hope that goes behind closed doors.
We was just talking to Ryan about it. Do we think it'll go ahead?
I think so. I think so, purely based off Tony Ferguson and Khabib's mentality. These guys would be crazy enough to have no undercard, no other fights before them, literally an octagon in a room, and the two of them fight. And I think it would make the fight even more legendary, considering who was involved in it.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I think that type of situation will kind of sum up the two guys to some degree, like just that, like the two killers, like just they'll have it out on the street, like, send location kind of stuff. It's like, I think that just the two lads in a cage, in a room.
They live by that kind of, that send location. Khabib literally lives by that. Like, even in that press conference when Tony brought up fighting on the streets, like, that got Khabib. You could see straight away, the second he was being questioned about, like, kind of his gangster, like, he was having none of it. Do you know what I mean? No, that's an exciting fight. Like, I think, I hope it will hit. You never know, but it would definitely kind of bring the kind of everything around the fight to another level if it was just the two of them in a room and an octagon. Do you know what I mean?
Dana White has said there is a location, that they have a location, but they haven't announced it yet. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I was reading that. They reckon Dubai. There's rumors of Dubai.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They might be able to run it in Dubai. Yeah, it'd be crazy. Who do you think would win?
Oh, that was my next question. I think Tony Ferguson will win. I've been on Tony Ferguson for a number of years. I've been saying the only person to beat Khabib is Tony. So I think Tony beats him. I'm going to stick with that prediction. I think Tony.
Yeah, I 100%. I agree with that 100%. I think there's nobody else out there that could beat Khabib.
Yeah, I think Tony's forward pressure is too much, and as the rounds go on, he'll start to get to him, because I think you've seen like maybe Khabib does tire a small bit, like you saw against Ali Quinta, and even against McGregor, like in the third round, McGregor won that round. So I think like Tony coming forward, putting the pressure on, and even if he takes him down, Tony's just savage off his back. So I think he has all.
I think that's going to be the big, that's going to be the big trump card. Whereas Khabib takes people down, locks them against the fence, and makes them want to quit, like makes them panic. Where I don't think that's in Tony Ferguson. He's going to sit there comfy. He's going to be trying to elbow Khabib from the bottom. Like he's going to have no problem sticking up triangles. Like he will do whatever needs to be done to beat Khabib. You know, that kind of way. He's not going to be panicking at any stage during that fight.
Yeah, I just hope that happens. See, I hadn't even.
Oh, it's the only thing that will keep us entertained now during lockdown.
That's like, it's what we need. Like I wake up like because I've forgotten what day it is, so I'm waking up and I'm kind of like, right, what sport is on today? Oh yeah, nothing. It's like
it's
nothing.
particularly with combat sport. This every weekend, like me and my brother will sit and watch UFC pretty much every weekend. It's on. Like even we got that Brazil card literally because there was nothing else on at the time. We're like, sure, what else would we do? It was kind of the start of lockdown. We're like, let's buy the Brazil card, and they had like 3 events lined up, and we were like, sure, look, this would be class. Like we'll get all the UFCs, sit back on a Saturday evening and watch all the fights. But they have to postpone them and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a crazy time to see literally everything is cancelled. Everything, even horse racing now. Like they were letting horse racing go for a while, and that's gone.
I thought I was watching. I was watching
horse racing.
I was watching. I like horse racing, but I was watching the racing in Thurles, and it was like, I have to watch it. Like it's the only bit of sport we're going to get for however long.
I was going to say that people second best it. Like, they'll make new fans for horse racing and everything, but everything's shut down now. It's crazy time we live in.
And like you said, like they don't know when it's all going to kick back up. Like it's just it's cancelled, and we're hoping at some time. Who knows when it'll actually come back.
This is it, this is it, and it feels like we're getting drip fed information about like how bad the situation is. You know, that kind of way. Like every day there seems to be there's new cases, and then there's a new measure in place to keep people in their homes or stop the spread of it, and then there's a new measure the following day. So we just have to wait. See, you just kind of have to bear it out.
But like that, if Tony Khabib was cancelled,
the world will definitely be. Imagine the 5th time. But this feels like the perfect time to do it as well. You know, if you had the fight, say, the first time they were meant to fight, I don't think we'll get the same appreciation as it will get this 5th time, because it really does feel like the 2 best lightweights in the world going head to head. Like there's nobody in any other promotion, I don't think, at lightweight that could rival either of them. They really does feel like the 2 best are going at it. Yeah,
like there's good guys in Bellator, right? Like Pitbull and stuff like, but Michael Chandler.
Yeah.
But I don't like they'd be good in the UFC, but I'd still fancy Tony and Khabib to beat them. You know,
exactly.
Good to have in the UFC.
That guy Pitbull actually is really good. Yeah, it's Khabib and
doesn't beat Khabib or Tony.
No, they're kind of the special 2 right now. Although, how would you fancy McGregor in a rematch versus Khabib?
I'd watch it.
Oh yeah, if McGregor's fighting,
you know, it's like
you're going to tune in. You have to watch it. Like,
I think if he's trained and ready, it will be interesting. Like he was definitely sharper against Cowboy in his last fight than he was against Khabib, and I think if he goes into it with that sharpness, it could be something different. Like maybe it won't. Maybe the result will be the same, but I think the fight overall will be a different fight. So I'd watch it. I'd be interested to see it.
And I think looking at the Diaz fight, that second Diaz fight, he came in much more prepared game plan wise. Do you know what I mean? He does, like, we've only seen him do 1 rematch, but he does well in that situation. And I think he'd want to prove himself in that kind of way.
I think, like, I kind of felt the first fight, like, McGregor just kind of treated it like a sporting contest, like it's just a throwaway thing. But Khabib was like, I'm going to war here. Like, no, this is life and death. I can't lose. And McGregor was kind of like, it was the side hustle to him launching whiskey. You know, that was kind of what it kind of felt like.
Yeah, it felt like. Yeah, them stories came out that he was like, he used to go in and spar and then go on a 3-day bender afterwards, celebrating the spar. Like,
yeah, like that. He just didn't fully focus on Khabib, and whereas I felt like Khabib, like, it was like night and day is thinking about this fight. It was like getting ready for absolute war. And locked
into the fight, like it'd be an interesting rematch. But I think Tony Khabib is where it's at right now. Everybody wants to see that fight.
Did you think Dustin Poirier had Khabib beaten when he had him in the guillotine?
I don't know. I remember watching. I actually saw. Just speaking of that, I saw a video about 2 nights ago about Khabib's head movement, underrated head movement, or something like that, and Dustin Poirier running forward with them punches. Do you remember there was a barrage of punches? I think in the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
round, it looked like it caught Khabib, but when it was slowed down, nothing actually landed on Khabib. But that, not so much the guillotine, but I remember that flurry of punches, and at the time looking at it, going, "Oh, he might have Khabib on the ropes." But no, I wasn't. For a couple of seconds, I thought he had that guillotine in snug.
It's the
I thought
same.
he was going to tap
It's the
Khabib.
same.
But my thing was like, I don't think Khabib would tap. I think he'd go out. He'd have to,
Yeah, yeah.
you'd have to choke Khabib out. There's that kind of mentality that's in him.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, but first went in, I said, nah, he doesn't have it. And then it was like, oh, wait, that's in deep. He has it. And it's like, is he going to go out?
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't going to tap. So I was like, is he going to go out? And then he kind of just shifted his feet around to the side a little bit and got a movement on his head that kind of managed for him to pop out. But yeah, I thought he had it for just a couple of seconds. I thought he had him.
Good second, yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Khabib on the ground, he looks so composed that at the same time you're not panicking. Do you know what I mean? He's not like Khabib's in that guillotine, not panicking. He's chilled out in there. He's gone. There's no pressure until he falls asleep.
Yeah, and then so I always think this is an interesting one in kickboxing. Is like winning the Irish Open is nearly recognised as being as big, if not bigger, than winning a world title. So, how many times then have you managed to win the Irish Open?
So I've won it 4 times now. This year, this Irish Open just gone a couple of weeks ago. That was my 4th time winning it. So, but I think this year definitely felt different. Felt very, very different in the sense of I just enjoyed it way more this year. There was something about the atmosphere and the vibe this year that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the preparation for it. Obviously, we did all of the training in Monterey. Usually what ends up happening is I would be traveling back and forth between clubs to get spars and things like that. Whereas we spent an awful lot of time, as I said, that Christmas we spent locked down in Monterey. But even in preparation for the Irish Open, we did a lot of the training in Monterey. So I would have been on pads with my sister, who does a lot of my pad work. And then my sparring partners, Josh Absey and Stephen Thompson, shout out those guys, who don't actually compete, but have been in sparring with me since we were 18 and 19. So they're just used to sparring with me. Do you know what I mean? And they're at a really, really good level, but they're just kind of tucked away here. Nobody really knows about them. And we did a lot of the preparation for Monterey. So by the time I got out there, I just felt really good. I remember warming up for every day I was fighting. I was just warming up with a big smile on my face, like just ready to go and put on a show. And we were happy with the performance. And then getting to do the gala as the second last fight in the gala was just unbelievable. Like, it came out in their sport there, but there was something, people were saying it to me the following day, like the atmosphere in the room changed. Once, like, everyone was kind of watching the fights, suddenly my name got called, the atmosphere changed, and people started chanting GMK and stuff like that. There was something special about it. It was really, really cool. And they hit the salt.
Building an online personality, I think.
I think so, yeah. It's funny that, like, people's reaction to the GMK thing is really, really funny. Where all it is my personality turned up to 11, and it's me kind of poking fun at martial arts, because we all know these martial arts characters, these kind of masters and grandmasters that are larger than life. Like, you have to bow to them 3 or 4 times as you approach them. Do you know these guys that are kind of
yeah.
Yeah, for lack of a better phrase, suck up their own hole. Like, but these people are out there, and in martial arts, like, there's so much ego involved because it's combat sports. Like, you fight another person. So the second you get good at it, like, there's ego involved. So these guys, these grandmasters, kind of take it to a new level. I always found, and I just found it hilarious. Like, so yeah, the GMK thing started developing. Then I think it started in Monterey when I was with John Mackey at the time, because I was the only person in Monterey, obviously, doing martial arts. So, like, in Monterey, it's all football. Football is the big sport, and if you're playing rugby, that's a bit exotic. So for somebody to be out there doing taekwondo and kickboxing, this was crazy then. Like, they'd never seen this before. So Paul Walsh, his name was, he teaches fitness class in Monterey. He used to call me Grandmaster Flash. Grandmaster Flash. Oh, and he used to say Grandmaster anytime he'd see me. And it kind of caught on in Monterey for a little while. People used to call me Grandmaster. And then John Mackey heard this for the first time. He said, Grandmaster Kenny. And then I got abbreviated to GMK. And I hated it at the time. I thought this was the worst nickname anybody had ever called me. But then John Mackey at the time came out with the Monterey Mauler. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. That's a horrible nickname. Let's go with GMK. So, and then I remember one day doing a post on Instagram or something like that, and referring to myself in the third person as GMK, and I'm just riding that till the wheels fall off. Like I'm
Just ran
still
with it
doing
now.
it today.
Yeah.
I just have a lot of fun with it. Like people seem to enjoy it. Like I remember we were sitting up in a room after Irish Open and everything. This is like 3:00 in the morning. Shout out Robbie Cuff, because he's sitting in our room reading out. He's just on my Instagram reading out my captions and absolutely bent over laughing at them. And when you see people's reactions like that, you're like, oh, that's what it's about. Like,
Yeah. Like just not taking yourself too seriously, and I think sometimes with your captions, like if you're taking it all too serious, like you're going to be like, oh, he's a dickhead. Like you have to kind of, if you read it with that kind of thing, like it just like he's just taking the piss, you'll get a great laugh out of it, you know. Like the same way with
yeah,
the bowling and
this is it. I
the
think.
attention stance and
Yeah, and I think you see it especially in the martial arts community, the kickboxing taekwondo community. People take themselves serious on Instagram. Like they're not messing around. Like I've seen people block comments and stuff like that, like on Instagram, because it ruins their post or something like that. You can't take yourself too seriously in these sports. Like these are technically amateur sports. It's about having a good time. Like I'm not getting paid enough to be taking this that seriously. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like it works. It works for me and against me in the sense of there's opinion out there of me that I don't take this seriously at all. Whereas like I'm in this hall 2 or 3 times a day training and things like that. But one really good one I found at the Irish Open just gone. It was like the first night, the Thursday night, and I was on my way up to bed. And in the lobby was Conor McClinchy and his coach from America, Junior, his name is. So he coaches the proper team from America. You know that proper team?
yeah.
So they're in the lobby and Conor's messing and he calls me over and he goes, oh, Junior, this is GMK. We got to sign him up to proper. So I'm standing there like, and just start messing. Like Junior's from California, like, so he barely understands my accent anyway. And I'm standing there in the middle of the lobby jabbing out. I'm like, Junior, I won't do much point fighting for you now, but I'd sit behind this jab now. I show you jab. I show you a Western hands ball. I start messing, and Junior's like looking at me as if I have 10 heads. He's going, who is this fella? Like, and I'm sitting there messing. Connor's like bent over laughing. I get up to bed. So the following day, my first 2 fights were on, and I fought a fella from Bristol and then another fella from England, and beat them both clean, and felt really good about performance. Looked really good. Come off the mat, and I meet Junior coming towards me, and he looks at me and he goes, "Actually, you know what? You're actually pretty good." And I remember just laughing to myself, going, "Actually, pretty good." Anyway, I think I kind of deceive people in the sense of I don't really take it that seriously. It looks like I don't take it that seriously until I go like.
How the whole connection? Because you started training with Hong in Newbridge. How did that kind of whole thing end up coming about?
Yeah. So I suppose that is like, because we're tucked away in the west of Ireland in Monavea, which is a village beside Athenry. Like there's not, as I said, there's not other martial arts around the place. So I end up traveling to different places to train. So Celtic Eagles is another one in Galway. I end up training in a boxing club in there. I enjoy training there. But Hong, we met him in Flanders in 2018. I want to say the Flanders Open was in Belgium. So he was over on his own. And there was a small group of us from White Tiger that were over, and Hong was like he was on his own from Spartan, so he was kind of hanging around with us for the weekend, and we just clicked. Like everyone on the team just loved him. Me and another guy called Emmett thought Hong was the funniest thing ever. Like with 2 coaches watching this fella go around, we just thought he was hilarious. Like, so we had a great time with him and really clicked and just got on with him as a person. And then we met him again in Bristol, and it was the same carry on. Damo loved him. Everyone just really enjoyed him. So what ended up happening then, just before Christmas, he came down to White Tiger to train, just spend the weekend and train. So when he was down there training, he kind of suggested to me, he was like, "You do have a black belt in taekwondo." I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "You should really, you should use that. Like, you should try and get back into a little bit of competing." And it's something I'd never thought about before. But through Hong, I ended up going, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Like, why I have a black belt? It's just kind of sitting here. Why don't I use it?" Like, and it's just another opportunity, and it's another, for me, the taekwondo is just another audience. I can put my skills out there too, and kind of show off what I can do to another audience. So what ended up happening then, I travel up and down to his club once a month in Newbridge, get to train up there, and I really enjoy it, like, because it is my original style. So it's fun. It's different. It's different from light contact. I find it very, very different. I find taekwondo's a lot more playful because of the bigger area. It's not as intense. You're not stuck in somebody's face boxing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like taekwondo, there's a lot more space to kick, and because the kick to the body is worth 2 points, you have to respect that front leg a little bit more. So there's a lot more room to play. The contact isn't as heavy and stuff like that. So although team event, I've heard it's big boy stuff up there.
Team event is a little bit of crack. Yeah, team event is a bit of crack. If you get the right match.
It looks like I've done it as a junior. Like I've done team events as a junior, but it's something I definitely like to get involved in. It looks really good. It looks like there's a good buzz around it. Like team events
is the big thing. Yeah, yeah. The buzz around it, like team day is a team day is where the buzz, just a buzz. Yeah, like I said, a buzz around is because even like when you're by the ring, like there's 5 of you, sorry, there's 6 of you. So like on each team, so by the ring, there's more people. So like it kind of has a bit of a buzz, like as opposed to like individual versus you and your coach. You have you the rest of the team, so you kind of get a bit of a buzz going, and you're cheering that the person is fighting, and everybody's cheering for you right next to the ring, and it builds a good buzz off the team sparring.
Yeah, it definitely looks like one of those things. Exactly like you said, it seems to be a good buzz. You're not just out there for yourself. Then at the same time, there's 5 other guys behind you. You need to pick up the win for. You know what I mean? So it looks like it'll be low. Yeah. So I've been training with Hong now a year maybe, up and down the Hongs, but I find Hong as a person just a great energy. Like it just off the mats, like really really good energy, and he's so wise too, taekwondo. Like he's been in this game so long. Like he's seen so many different generations of taekwondo, and he's been through all the different styles and things like that. So it's really good. Like you learn an awful lot from him, off the mats as well as on the mats. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 20 years of international competition. It's some achievement.
And he's such a good personality. Like he's so he's just one of the more likable people in the sport, that kind of way. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like Hong, who doesn't enjoy being around Hong. Like, he's just a great energy.
Yeah, there's always a bit of messing going on, like.
That's. I think that's important. I think that's something I was talking to somebody about this recently. Something people lose out on is that kind of vibe in training. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have them serious sessions. You have to buckle down and do hard sparring and all the rest of it. But you need that good energy in training. You need to be around people you enjoy training with. There's a little bit of messing and cutting and fooling going on. I think it's so important. It's so important to keep the energy high, especially when the tournaments get serious. You know what I mean? With the likes of, I think that's what I enjoyed so much about the preparing for Irish Open from Winnipeg, was I was stuck with Josh and Stephen and my sister Jade. They're all people I like being around. And we used to train on Sunday morning used to be our sparring session. So we'd have people come out for the sparring on the Sunday morning, different kickboxers and stuff like that from other clubs. So it would be a bit more intense because you were sparring guys you weren't as familiar with. Do you know what I mean? So we'd have intense sparring on Sunday morning. But every Sunday evening, we used to do a run and just hit the bag. And the goal of that run and hit the bag, we turn the music up real loud when we're hitting the bag and just have a good time. And you're just codding and fooling in between rounds and things like that. So I think it's important to enjoy yourself when you're training as opposed to taking it super seriously. And then you end up in your own head and stuff like that. It's hard to get better.
Like that, you're not getting paid for it. It is the reason you're doing it is because you enjoy it. And I was saying to Giles, who was on the podcast not too long ago, was that like half the reason you're doing it is, for me anyway, half the reason I enjoy what I do is the people I'm doing it with, and I like to have and enjoy training with those people as much as then the people you're doing it with, they're all pushing towards the same goal. Like, so you're all having the crack, but you're all training hard and you're all pushing towards the same thing. Like, that's half the reason I do it. And it's that went away a little bit for me for just a little bit. And that's why I was kind of like, will I take a break or will I not? But then I competed, I got on the mats, and I kind of felt like I had a buzz there. I love the buzz and competition then, and I just started getting back in. I started enjoying training a lot more again. So like, it definitely is important that you do enjoy the training, and it's not just all serious.
Oh, 100%. And even the Tom O'Toole, who I mentioned at the top of the podcast, like, I get on so well with him, but we kill each other sparring. Like, it's boxing sparring. Yeah. And anybody who has boxed, you understand, like, when you're sparring and boxing, it's nearly like a fight. Like, Tom's trying to rip my head off, I'm trying to rip his head off. But once that last round is finished, we're coddling and fooling, messing about, abducted in plain sight, or whatever else is going on in life. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's so important to be around people you do enjoy training with and things like that. Just because you were talking about your own competing, you were at that Warrior Open recently, were you?
Yeah, I was at it. Yeah, it was good competition actually. Yeah,
is that its first year?
That's the first year of the tournament. Yeah, it was a good tournament, some good people at it. I would like to see maybe it was only 1 2-minute round. I'd like to see maybe if they don't want to do the full 2 2s, maybe 2 1.5-minute rounds, because I felt kind of
Yeah.
in a couple of fights, like even the fights I won, I felt like a second round would really have given me the
It's hard to
chance to
settle
kind
in
of
at one
pull away.
round.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want that second round to really work out what your partner's doing, and then open up a little bit.
And maybe even the bigger ring to some degree would have been a little bit better, I think. Maybe.
How big were the rings out there?
6x6, so kickboxing style, which like that.
Yeah, kickboxing size. Yeah.
So you know, it does change, like that changes how you have to fight, and the tactics you can use. So I think that even if it wasn't, you know, we sparring at 10x10 usually in taekwondo, even if it went to 7x7 or 8x8, would have been a little bit better if you just had that little bit of an extra mat. Like you didn't have to go full international size, but a little bit of a bigger ring would have been a bit better and a longer round. But the level of competition was definitely good. So I'd go back.
Yeah, because the what you call the size of the ring really does dictate like the style you can fight with. I remember when they cut the ring for WAKOs the first year, like it was crazy. There were so many disqualifications for exits and stuff like that. They brought in the exit rule, about 4 exits and you were disqualified, and cut the size of the ring the same year. It was just it completely changed the sport. You can see that now though. The light contact in general is much more boxing oriented. You need to have good boxing in order to last the time. I think the day of the lead leg fighter is kind of where they could just rely on their lead leg. It's kind of slowly fizzling out. You do need a good strong lead leg, but it has to be applied differently to what it used to be.
Yeah, like I think that's the thing. Like sometimes the people making the rules forget that the rules dictate the style of fighting that the people are going to use, because the fighters are going to look for the most effective and most efficient techniques to win. And that's all dictated by the rule set, the size of the ring, the scoring. Like straight away, if like even think in, like you said, in taekwondo, you have to respect the front leg because it's 2 points. Like if that was maybe brought into kickboxing, that would change straight away the style, because that's the way, like those things do dictate the style of fighting.
Everybody would want to start kicking them.
Yeah. And,
I think the reduced ring size in WAKO definitely brought more of an emphasis on boxing. I remember at the time when that happened, it was like 2017. I got beat out the door at that WAKO's. I was in Slovenia. 2017, maybe 2016, maybe 2016 or 2017. I got beat out the door. I got some Polish fella in the first round, and this fella just boxed the head off me. So I remember coming home at the time and going, well, what are we going to do? And I ended up training with Jim Upton after that. And everybody in the country was trying to get strong boxing. They were trying to get some kind of boxing going that would help them for the following year, and that kind of way. So it has gone very boxing orientated, is light contact, I think, which is good for me.
Yeah, exactly. You're not complaining. You was Australia. You were at was it the combat kit? No, the university games you were at last year, was it?
Yeah, university. Yeah, that's a bit of a mad story actually.
Because there's a good story here to how you managed to get to that. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
I don't know how much I can say on the podcast now, but I'm going to give the
that's
full
what I was also thinking. So we'll give as much detail as you can, I suppose.
Yeah, who cares? Who's going to stop me? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I have to pay college fees, obviously. But what happened was around December 2 years ago, or a year ago, I saw the combat games being advertised. So obviously, this university combat games, and it was organized by the IOC. The IOC were involved, and it looked like a really good opportunity just to see where they were going with kickboxing and how they were going to push it kind of towards Olympic recognition. And I saw light contact got announced for it. So I was like, oh, I'd love to do that tournament, but I wasn't in college, so I teach kickboxing full time. Like I've never gone to college, so I was looking at this going, oh, I need to get to that tournament. So I went into training that Friday into Damien and kind of said it to him. I was like, I want to do that tournament. He's like, well, you can't. You're not in college. And I turned around to Damien. I was like, Damien, fix it. So 2 weeks later, he came back and he'd signed me up for this course. And I was like, yeah, no problem. He's like, you have to be in GMIT in Galway on such and such a day. Sit in. Once you're signed up to that course, you can go and compete then as part of the university. Like, they want you to go and compete. I was like, happy days. So in I went the middle of January. I sat in, and up on the board came agricultural entrepreneurship, whatever that was. And I just was signed up to this course, ready to go, and it was all online. So I just had to do a little bit of work online, and I could go and compete at the tournament. But the tournament itself was really, really good. So it was a university combat games, like I said. So you had judo at it, you had taekwondo, you had kickboxing, there was karate at it, and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see all the different athletes in this one village as well, and it felt a little bit more like an Olympics style tournament. So it was really, really good. Now I got beaten the first round, as I said. I think it was karma. I shouldn't have been at that tournament, so that kind of way. But
Yeah.
The tournament itself, it was really, really good, really well organized, really well run, and it was interesting to see where they could push kickboxing as far as what they're trying to do with the Olympics and stuff like that, because it's Olympic recognized now and things. So you just never know where the sport goes. But it was a great tournament. I had a great time getting to it, and then when I was over there, it was really, really good to see.
And when are they planning on hosting another one soon, or is it like have they like a time frame between the tournaments? Like, is it going to be
I heard
2 years or?
I heard somewhere that was Belgrade was the next one, whatever. But I don't know. It was set to be during this summer, I think, which obviously won't happen now. But I think Belgrade was supposed to be the next term. But Belgrade could also be the venue for WAKO Juniors. You know, there's so many that they get mixed up in your head and stuff like that. But they are planning to run more of them. It's a really good tournament. The way it's laid out, they do it differently to WAKO's. So for anybody that hasn't been to WAKO's works where you have one 3-round fight a day through your division. Whereas these guys at the University Combat Games, you had 2 fights every day, and they had a morning time session and an evening time session. So the morning would run from like 12 till 3. There'd be like a 3-hour break. You'd come back, and then there'd be an evening time session. So it was an interesting way of running a tournament. We'd never seen that before, and it ran over 3 days. They were able to run all the divisions over 3 days, K1 included. So you had K1 point fighting and live contact at it. So it was really good. Like it's hard to describe it when you weren't there, but there was definitely a different vibe to it. There was a vibe where it was more like an Olympics. It felt special. You know what I mean? So really good. Hopefully something we'll see more of for kickboxing. Hopefully we'll see like just a senior version of it, where there's no college. I don't have to go and lie and pretend I'm this student athlete that I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I can go out.
That's what I was going to say. What course are you doing next?
And not be ripping off colleges and all the rest of it. Oh, sign me back up for agriculture and entrepreneurship. See if I actually complete it.
I'm going to have to repeat. Oh, that's a great.
I don't know, a bachelor's in Instagram studies or something like that.
Social, that's a thing, you know, digital marketing or something, you know, digital media or something like that.
Instagram captions. And I haven't even done one of those on the first day. I don't understand exactly how this works, just from running the top Instagram and kickboxing.
And so what does your training schedule look like then? Well, like obviously before all of this kicked off.
Before the global pandemic. So again, like I said, we train out of Monterey, so we end up traveling an awful lot. So an average week for me would be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's all in Monterey. So I'm hitting pads, training with my training partners here in Monterey. Sometimes I go in boxing on a Tuesday in Galway City. So there's a club over there, Celtic Eagles. Really, really high level of boxers. They've had 2 elites. They've had Tom won the elites. You've Toto up there that's doing really, really well. Toto's was on that kind of Olympic. He's up in the high performance an awful lot. So there's some really high level boxing up there. The coach up there, Pavel Popko, really, really good. So I go in there doing a bit of boxing during the week, and then some Thursdays I'm up with Hong. Every Friday I'm in Castlebar then. And then the weekends always look different. Like weekends, usually you're going competing somewhere. So there's loads of Irish tournaments for kickboxing, or if we're not competing, we're traveling somewhere to do a couple of spars, or we're here, people are coming to us to do spars. So it's pretty much every day is literally wake up and see how much training we can get in. We're in here like 2 or 3 times a day in the hall, like just working technical stuff, working strength and condition as well. I'm doing a good bit of strength and conditioning since the start of this year. And I find it makes a big difference to the game. Something I've never really done before. But
it makes that to do.
At the moment 3, because there's no competitions. But when I was competing there, say before Irish Open and before the Munster Open for the Taekwondo, it was 2 a week. It makes a huge difference. It's very just for a fighter athletically, and to just control your body in different ways, really, really good.
Yeah, so if you had to put a number on how many sessions, what do you reckon? 12, 13 sessions a week? More? Less?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, 12, 13 sessions, which I think surprises people because of the way my social media works, and I'm always kind of laughing and joking. It looks like I don't take it that seriously, but we put in crazy hours in this Monday Hall. Like we're really, really about it. Like I'd like, the goal is really to go down as one of the greats in light contact. That's always been something I've wanted to, but particularly since I've come back, that's what I'd love to do. Just go down as one of the greats and have a lasting effect on the sport. Like, so I think that's what keeps me motivated. Even now when there's no tournaments, we're down here practicing, trying to put something new together, trying to put out something different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like that. I think if you're going, see, that's the thing. Like if you're going to, throw out the captions on Instagram, you kind of need to be able to back it up, So that's, you have
Oh
to,
yeah, 100.
you have to get yourself in the gym. It's no good. You can't do it if you're losing all the time. You have to be backing
Yeah,
it up.
100%. Yeah, you have to. At the same time, like when you do lose, you can't take it too seriously. Do you know what I mean? You can't take it too
That's the thing.
seriously
Yeah.
because you're messing and cutting and fooling. But I think it's in good humor most of the time. I'm not like trying to get someone or like kind of throw digs at someone on
Yeah.
Instagram or anything like that. But 100%, if you're going, as you said, if you're going to kind of talk that big game, you have to be able to back it up a little bit, and it keeps you in. Like you just have to make sure. If you're going to call yourself the youngest taekwondo grandmaster in the world, there has to be some kind of merit behind it. Do you know what I mean? You want to be somewhat good.
But I suppose a couple of more things before we finish up. I asked Ryan in the last podcast the same thing. I don't know. I might keep this going actually. Favorite fighter across any sport, like any martial art, combat sport. If you had to pick one fighter, or maybe you've said it already, but we'll just.
Yeah, it has to be Nassim Hamed. Just for he is my earliest memory of experiencing martial arts, like seeing martial arts. But yeah, easily one of my favorites. I'm trying to give you another one just because I've mentioned Naz and we talked about Naz a good bit.
Yeah.
Another one I really like. Dominic Cruz, I think, was a big one for me growing up as well.
Good one.
That really, really that he kind of brought a matrix style to MMA. Do you know what I mean? He was the first person I'd ever seen at the time focus on not getting hit as opposed to wrestling and takedown and stuff like that. But that was because he was much smaller than his opponents. There was no bantamweight division at the time. I think it was only lightweight. Yeah. So he was fighting. He wasn't even making weight. He was just showing up as he was, getting in ready to fight, and off he'd go. But that kind of footwork he's using, we're watching a lot of that at the moment actually. That footwork he's using and the way he moves his head, unorthodox angles, so good to watch. It was so good. I remember growing up watching him when I was about 14, 15, and when he was on that kind of rise, he was coming over from WC.
Yeah.
He was so good then.
And so then as well, favorite fight again, boxing fight, kickboxing fight, K1, MMA, whatever fight, favorite fight.
Oh, that's a good question.
You have to sit down and pick one fight to watch. What are you picking?
For the rest of my life. Well, that's a very, very good question. I don't know, something with Diaz. The Diaz brothers will be another big favorite of mine. I love that long boxing style. That kind of lazy boxing style. But I've watched a lot of Nick in particular, his fights. I remember, I don't know what it is about some of his fights. That fight where he finishes your man with the Gogo Plata, I think it was in Japan.
Takanori Gomi, Pride 33.
Whatever it is about that particular fight, the way Diaz performs, and it's not like, it's not like an Israel Adesanya or Diaz McGregor, where it's this mad back and forth war. It's just how good Nick Diaz was in that fight. I think that's one I love. I've watched that fight a couple of times. That's one I love watching. And he kind of broke him down with that pitter patter boxing style, and then that's it. But that's the crazy thing about the Diaz brothers is there's that kind of gangster mentality in them that they're there for a fight. Like they don't care. You can hit them as hard as you want. They're just gonna roll with the punches and see what happens. Like they're so good. Their boxing is completely underrated, I think, as well. Like it's such an unusual style of boxing, and they've adapted it so well to the MMA gloves. Like people completely forget that their boxing is top drawer. Like
Yeah, like Nick is paired with Andrew Ward and stuff like that.
yeah, this
Oh,
is
sorry,
it,
Nate.
and
Nate.
I think it's it's such an unusual style of boxing. The way they kind of throw everything long and slow, but apparently the science behind that is it's harder to block. Like these guys are actually for two kind of stoners, they actually know what they're about. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They understand that the faster you throw something, everyone's prepared to block them fast punches. We're all used to these fast punches. But when you start to slow it down a little bit, and even in a combat situation, it's much harder to block. And they pick their shots so nicely, like they're so relaxed in there. Yeah, they're really good. I like the ideas because I like their carry on outside the ring as well. They're so entertaining to watch. You know what I mean? And some of the stuff they come out with, just gold.
So have we came to a decision on that one fight, or is it just anything with the Diaz?
Yeah, we went after it. I think the Taekwon-do Nate Diaz or Nick Diaz fight. I'm trying to think of another one. There must be a boxing one.
I said to Ryan, my one would be Eric Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera, the first one.
Yeah, that's a Mexican war. Just gunslinger style, like they stand in the middle. Yeah, Mickey Ward on Toro Gotti style, like just stand in the middle and go to war, like.
And for MMA, then I said it would be Shogun Hua and Dan Henderson, the first one. Have you ever seen that fight?
Oh, the second one went up recently as a free fight. I watched the second one.
Watch the first.
I think it was the second one. I haven't seen the first one in a long time. I must go back and watch that. A boxing fight that I definitely would watch more of is anything with Lomachenko. Do you remember when Lomachenko finished Nicholas Walters?
The Jamaican.
The Jamaican guy, yeah, where he stopped him in like the 7th round.
Didn't get off the chair.
Yeah, to me, that was one of my favorite fights to watch. That highlight where he cuts an angle and brings his hands down and walks forward at Nicholas Walters, just chin in the air, as if what you're going to do. So good. Like anything with Lomachenko.
That's a special. I think that's the one thing about Lomachenko is, and it's a special thing to do is to have fellas quit, like just knock it off the chair, to just go, no, I've had enough. Like that's a special type. Like you've broken that person. Like whatever about dropping him. That's it. Like
not just physically broken him, as in knocked him out. Like you've gone. He has no answer for you. He's nothing left to give you. Like he knows every time he throws at you, you're gonna make a miss, and then you're gonna counter him every time. Just class. He's a different level, I think.
And so one last one is: do you think, like obviously you said already, WAKO has got IOC recognition. Do you think it'll end up in the Olympics at some point?
Hopefully, it looks like it will. It's not. I don't know if it's something I'll see in my lifetime either, is the Olympics. But I think what is nice about our sport as well, and something that people forget, is there's no roof on it. So, for example, if you're an amateur boxer, Olympics is the pinnacle. You go to the Olympics, you win the Olympics. There's nothing left to do. You've done it. You completed it, mate. You've completed boxing. Whereas, like for us, there's no roof. We can push this further. Do you know what I mean? I know there's WAKO Pro is something I'd like to have a crack at. But that was huge when Barada first came around. And kind of, he brought that front leg style in and stuff like that. That was a huge one. There's so much we can do with our sport that we haven't seen yet. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like it's a sport. As I said, there's no roof on. There's so many opportunities that are just uncreated so far. So that's definitely something I'd like to do in the future, is push the boundaries of the sport. Let's see what we can do with light contact. Can we make it more popular? Can we it's the personalities I think are important, but there's some fighters out there that really that are worth showcasing. Even here in Ireland, like there's some juniors coming up, really, really exciting talent. That kid Troy Gannon, have you seen him down the 63s?
I've heard of him, yeah. I haven't watched him much, but I've heard of him and he seems decent, yeah.
Yeah, he's one I'd earmark for the future. If he keeps that light contact, like again, you don't know how things work when you step up senior and stuff like that. It's harder to stay involved in it, but really, really good. That's somebody I definitely think is worth watching like that. But again, there's somebody that can push the boundaries of the sport stylistically. He operates with a different style. It's similar enough to what I do. He's a bit more he's laid back and he kind of picks his shots. But he throws some crazy stuff. There was a highlight of him recently at the Nationals. I remember him twisting kick to somebody's face. Like, who's doing that? Like, who's thinking of that stuff? It's class. Like, it was one of them things where he's not trying to just win. He's trying to put on a show. Do you know what I mean? I appreciate that. But I think in light contact, we need a little bit more of that. Joan, you were talking about people take the rules and they let the rules dictate how they fight. I think a lot of the greats kind of fight with their personality. So I just from my example is like, I'm laid back, I'm a little bit goofy. That's the way I want to fight. I want to sit back, pick people off, and kind of smile at them and stuff like that. And have a little bit of fun when I'm out there. The same way I carry on in life, like, do you know what I mean? So I think it's so, when you see somebody fighting with their personality, it's so good. And he's another good example of that. He's that kind of laid back and pick you apart style, which I enjoy. Actually, they're just on a complete different. When you're saying favorite fighters, another one, Mikhail Gurmishov. Have you ever seen him? Mikhail Gurmishov.
See, I might have, like, if the name isn't ringing a bell, but like if I saw a video or a highlight, then I could.
Yeah, he's a light contact fighter. He's a light contact fighter from Russia, but he fought points as well. But he fought around kind of 2006 period, 2000 up to like 2010, I think. I think he got a leg injury and it has him out now. I'm not 100%, but he's a referee now. But that guy was one of the GOATs. He was one of the GOATs of light contact. But people kind of, they just don't recognize him. They recognize Barada as one of the best, or Katja Solveig. And to be fair, they are. Like, they brought the sport to a new platform. But like, Barada brought in that front leg style. Nobody was keeping with their front leg. Now everybody has a front leg because of Barada. But this guy, Mikhail Gurmishov, I think that's how you say his name. He's Russian. I probably butchered his name. I'm sorry. But his stuff was amazing. He had this kind of, he'd bring his hands down and start playing with people, like head movement and stuff like that. And the way he would link his hands and feet up together was so unusual. It's worth looking up if anybody's on YouTube and is bored over this period, which is everybody. You should type in Mikhail Gurmishov and watch some of that stuff. That's amazing. Like, I don't think I've seen anybody do it like that for a long time as far as light contact goes, even on videos.
I'll have to look at it myself. But I think maybe we'll leave it there.
Really
That's it. Really enjoyed the chat. No
problem. Thanks for having us on.
But I suppose we better plug this Instagram. Where can people find you?
Yes. Oh, of course. You can get me on Brendan GM Kenny. Follow that Instagram for the finest kickboxing and taekwondo content this world has ever seen. And White Tiger Challenge, hashtag WTC. WTC could be postponed till November. So it could be in November, Jamie, which means you'll have plenty of free time in November. Will we see you at the WTC this year?
If it's on in November, I'll try and make an appearance, yeah.
Brilliant. I think we should get a taekwondo team together. I've been saying this for a few years. I feel like there's a team event every year, a point fight team event. We need to get a taekwondo team together. Get us all in dough box. Let's go out and show these point fighters how it's done.
100%. Man, it was a pleasure chatting.
Thanks for having us on, Jimmy.
Cheers. Keep well. I think that's the saying.
Yeah, no, I think it's stay safe. Make sure you wash your hands now, and everybody at home, wash your hands.
That's how we'll leave it. Go on.
Although my hands are getting dry from all this hand washing.
Same. Go on.
God bless.